So, you've just finished a project. What do? Do you start a new project? Do you wait because you're a bit tired from the last one? Took a lot out of you, you know? Well, I find myself in this position today. What do I do when I finish my project? Well, there's all the usual stuff. You could market it and make sure it gets seen. You could focus on the joy of being done. Well, what if being done is the worst part of it? Where the love of the work is really what gets me going. And when that's kind of removed, well, what am I to do? I don't know. Figuring that out. I have had initial waves of interest in other things. It hasn't been as catastrophic as finishing projects in the past have been. Usually there's a bit of a seasonal swing. There's a growth period, and then there's this resting phase where you live in life, you're coming up with new ideas, and nothing's quite stuck yet. I've been tinkering with some other ideas here and there, but the question has been daunting most of my moments. What do I do now? What do I want to do? It's kind of easy. You have a project, this is what you do. This can go for any phases of life as well. You're in a certain job, you're in a certain year of school. This is your one task. And for me, moments of breaks and of rest have actually been kind of difficult because I have to figure out what to do with myself. It's not obvious sometimes. So I've been looking for answers and trying to figure out what to do. And again, nothing's really stuck. It kind of feels like a bit of a winter for me. People have said that people that live in cold climates that it's more brutal than you think. I think I was pretty naive about the whole situation of living in the snow for the first time because I've just finished living in a certain place for some time. And I wasn't ready for the reality of what this life would be. A life of being in the snow and having to shovel driveways and worry about the salt ruining the bottom of your car. It's all new to me, and I do appreciate that challenge. I mean, what do you do when you feel like you've expressed yourself or where you've said everything that you want to say? It becomes this kind of hibernative state, in a way. I don't really know how long it'll last, but I hope it's somewhat short. But also, why have to get over the discomfort of not knowing what to do? I think in the past year or so, it has been really difficult for me to commit to a plan because all of my plans usually go not the way that I expect them to. And that's life. That's part of the process. So I'm trying to be more okay with the discomfort of not knowing what to do or not knowing what I want to do. There's so many new avenues available to you, and I think that there's a certain level of fright and scare that goes on behind that as well. Because new stuff is kind of intimidating. New stuff is kind of scary, and in this world where we have so many comforts available to us, there's still unknowns, certainly, but it's more of a risk to seek those out because comforts are all around. And I kind of find myself in a place of both incredible comfort and incredible discomfort at the same time. I'm kind of shifting the idea of what I want day by day, and I'm not really sure. Maybe this feeling is familiar, but I feel like a bit of a generalist. Like I don't feel like I've committed to doing any one thing because there's so many things to do. And you have access to so many things. So of course, like, why wouldn't you do as much as you can? But that also means not really honing in a skill once... But that also means not honing in a skill with the precision of a singular focus. So I'm kind of looking at all of the things that I like to do and know that I feel confident enough to keep exploring them. What do you decide to focus on when there's so many things in front of you? I think this feeling was the same when I was trying to figure out... This feeling is similar to the one that you get when you're trying to decide where to live. If you have options available to you, and you could live, let's say, anywhere in the United States, how do you hone in that one thing that you want to do? Because you can only really live in one place at a time, and it's hard to decide how to spend your time. Do you live in a place where it snows all the time? Do you live in a place where it's warm all the time? Do you live somewhere with a mixture of both? I'm trying not to get lost in the concept of being afraid to do the next step. I feel quite hesitant at the moment, even when I thought I was prepared to make decisions at a faster rate. I think it's a lot harder now. I've committed to something so big already, and I've done it, and now every decision after that feels so fragile for one reason or another. So yeah, I don't know what to do. But I think the answer doesn't need to be found, and I think that's also a really comforting idea. Because you will never know what the next project is until you're doing it. And there's no possible way for you to know what that'll look like. Art is... I've learned that in art, nothing is predictable. That even though you think something is stable and consistent, that it has a different facet to it that might be less consistent. Everything kind of exists on a double plane where things can coexist in somewhat of a disharmonious way or even a contradictory way. Like, I can feel both good and bad at the same time. That's a really frustrating emotion to kind of sit with. And I think that's what is the precise feeling that I feel now, which it's like two magnets kind of pulling at each other, and I'm in the middle, kind of in a neutral stasis. And I just kind of don't want to do anything because I feel both so good and so bad at the same time. It's the uncertainty. I think that is a very bittersweet emotion. Uncertainty is both one of the most daunting things that we face, but also one of the most exciting, because you never know what's going to happen next. You also never know what's going to happen next. But on the plus side, yeah. So I think being able to sit with these feelings of discomfort is a good thing. Good meaning it prepares you for accepting the moment. I don't have to feel any certain way. I think so much of our time is spent striving for one specific feeling, one emotion. Like, I want to be happy or I want to be sad. Those are kind of byproducts of the moment, so why try and force anything? It's okay to feel how you feel, even though it's uncomfortable and weird. But that's part of the fun. Part of the discomfort. If you're okay with that, then I think it allows you some form of improvisation. You have the freedom and the liberty to make your own choices. That's, again, both daunting and very empowering. But if you don't do anything after your last project, then the guilt starts to creep in. What is this weird feeling? This shadow that's kind of persuasive in allowing me to sit still. I think doubt is a difficult place to be in, especially so consistently. I think a lot of my life is lived in doubt. It seems rare that absolute trust in something is a part of the equation. I don't really trust that I know what I'm doing. I don't really trust that my choices for the future that I think I want now are going to be the ones that I are pursuing 10 years down the road. I doubt very much that even tomorrow I'm going to have a solid idea of what's going on. And that's okay. There's so many things to know. How could I expect to predict the future and know how everything's going? When I overthink about the future, it seems like I have such a solid grasp on how things can go. And I know that those outcomes are terrible. So I get anxious, thinking about all the ways that something could go wrong. But if you phrase it like you're trying to predict the future, how silly is that? Because I don't think you can. And so it's kind of a fruitless effort. So don't try and predict what your next project's going to be. I think it's all right to not know. In fact, that's kind of part of the fun, because you get to decide what your next project is. Not some expectation of what you think you're going to do. Yeah, it's both difficult and fun at the same time. It's really the duality of it all. There's good and bad to just about everything. It's rare that a situation is one thing or another. So I'd say let yourself be a little uncomfortable. You can sit in the unknown for a little bit. Not know what to do, not know what's going to happen, not know where you're going to be tomorrow. Because nobody can know. And that's part of the fun. I think this was the next project. Stuff's happening here and there. You'll turn your back for 2 seconds and find that you are much more close to an objective than you think. I still like the snow, by the way. How long it'll take me to get sick of it, I don't know. We'll find out. Here, don't trip over the wire, though.